under the House leader and the Honorable Speaker, we have been able to see the House is calm and is united and is able to forge an agenda. And this cannot be without effective role and leadership that the House leader had actually provided. So Nigerians have a lot of expectation for the National Assembly, and we believe that with listening ear that the current House of Representative leadership has, they will be able to listen to what Nigerians are saying. They will be able to take the necessary legislative action to intervene, so that a lot of lingering crises that we are facing in the country, with the effective and with progressive mind that some of the members are having, we will be able to see dramatic change in the legislative engagement in the National Assembly. A lot of Nigerians, they looked into National Assembly to create and develop a legal framework that will guarantee sustainability of peace in this country. And in particular, we have seen how National Assembly has actually made that effort, and there's need for the National Assembly to consolidate and continue to insist that the level of insecurity, the level of lack of safety in the country is addressed. I want to believe that the National Assembly is determined and ready, based on the utterances and based on some of the action we have seen. I want to believe that they are ready to work with the executive to find a lasting solution in terms of the even the ongoing crisis that we are facing. Nigeria is facing serious crisis, and it needs genuine intervention from both policy makers and legislative intervention to address some of these problems. Likewise too, in terms of the corruption that has brought us to the level we are, the decay that we have, we believe that legislative intervention, with the progressive members that we have in the House of Representatives, will go a long way to deal with the kind of impunity we see in corruption in this country. You have done a lot in terms of creating the enabling framework, because without National Assembly making the law, there's nobody that can actually have any law to even set up these agencies. So you have created EFCC, you have created ICPC, you have done a lot to ensure that the functionality of these agencies and institutions are also done. And therefore, Nigerians will look forward to seeing how you can also support the executive to ensure that you champion the anti-corruption crusade that the government want to do or is doing. The National Assembly, there's no doubt, has fundamental role to ensure that our anti-corruption institutions, they operate in a manner that can help to reduce corruption, prevent corruption. And it is only through the intervention of the National Assembly, by creating the enabling law, by providing the necessary resources, by also carrying out effective and responsible oversight, that this institution, they can function and they can work. More fundamentally, again, Honorable, we also note that in terms of job creation, in terms of reduction of poverty, the National Assembly has a fundamental role to play, because even currently the federal government had committed itself to creating jobs, and what we have been hearing, a lot of Nigerians, they are not satisfied with the method in which job is allegedly being actually privatized and commercialized, for the highest bidder. It is through the National Assembly, through your effective oversight, that you can rescue Nigerians who have no godfathers, who have no godmothers, to be able to get a job. As it is now, speculation are going on, allegations are going on that jobs are being sold for people who can pay large amount of money in different ministries and prestata. We urge you to investigate this allegation that is going on. Again, we also want to commend the House of Representatives for its stand with education and ASU, because Nigeria cannot afford to be left in terms of education. A lot of Nigerians are committed and believe that if we have a sound educational system, we will be able to reduce poverty, because people would have been able to, come out from school with quality certificates and results and be able to get job. Equally important in the area of health, honorable members, we believe that your active, participation in terms of provision, in terms of the budgetary allocation, particularly in terms of nutrition, will go a long way to having children not die at the age of, or before the age of 5, as the case is showing Nigeria is leading in that unfortunate situation. So through your legislative intervention, you will be able to save life by ensuring that a lot of children who are dying as a result of malnutrition, and so many women who are dying because they want to give birth, which they do not have access to healthcare system, especially in the rural areas. With their intervention, with adequate health financing, with effective oversight, you will be able to save life. Honorable members, we want to believe that this relationship with Cislac and the House of Representatives need to be consolidated, because there are so many areas that we think we can work together, even through area of constituency outreach, so that we can actually amplify and support and get Nigerians to appreciate and understand how they can effectively even engage their members in the various constituency. Cislac, as part of its institutional strengthening, have decided to establish or to build its national secretariat, which currently we are actually housing over 45 staff, and we felt that it is important that we also institutionalize that and have our own center where a lot of Nigerians and outside Nigerians, they can come to learn about legislative work. Our center has been providing a lot of resource for Nigerians who are interested to learn how legislature operate and how they can also engage the legislature. So without taking much of your time, honorable member and House leader, I want to once again, thank you very much for this, wonderful opportunity to interact with you. We have come a long way. When you are in the MGD committees as chair, we work together and made Nigeria very proud by you leading Nigeria to actually host the African parliamentarian on MGDs. Now we are on SGDs. So you have a track record, and you have been working closely with Cislac and other civil society organizations to amplify the work that you are doing. So I want to, on behalf of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center and my colleagues here, to once again thank you and also encourage you to continue to do the good that you can do in order to save Nigeria and Nigerians from the crisis that we are having in this country. Thank you.
And remember, clearly you said that the National Assembly, in the case of Nigeria, and any other parliament, as far as democracy is concerned, is indeed the most important component of that democratic system. It is most important, or is more important than the two others, because here in the institution of the legislature, you have the representation of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in cases of other nationalities, you have the representations of their people in the legislature. I would like to say that what you said is like an iron cast statement. And there is no democracy that survives without a vibrant and effective legislative operations or an institution of the legislature that represent the interest of the people of that country. That is a very good observation. But let me, on behalf of the National Assembly or the House of Representatives, members and the leaders, say that despite the importance of the institution of the legislature, despite the role we play as people that represent our own people, despite our position and the kind of roles spelled out in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, unfortunately, the Nigeria's legislature stands most challenged and most weakened because the process, the system as a whole, does not accord that kind of recognition or that kind of respect to this institution. And we look forward to really changing the narratives And we cannot change the narratives without the support of the civil society organizations like your own, the Cislac. Yours is even much more important or more critical when you look at the context of your mandate, as the name suggests, that you are a civil society, but bestowed more or less specifically given attention to legislative duties of legislative institutions. Civil society or legislative advocacy center, Cislac is your name, which means even though you have the right, even though you do cover every other area of your engagements, but your terms of engagement is quite more specific in terms of parliamentary dealings and the way you come in to support the legislature. I would like to, on behalf of the National Assembly leadership and members, acknowledge what you have been doing right from day one. In fact, right from those days, like you mentioned, when I was leading the MDGs, the Committee on MDGs in Nigeria's parliament, I also led the parliamentarians in Africa on MDGs. You have been a very good partner. And I believe this partnership should continue to work stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. It is needed even more. We need it quite more importantly when you look at the circumstances we found ourselves now. In a situation whereby you operate on a system where misinformation, mischief, a lot of other things take the lead simply because people are not aware. People are not informed, or they are rather misinformed all the time about the existence and the role of the institution of the legislature. In the case of Nigeria, Nigeria's National Assembly, we are most hated. The institution is most hated, is most misperceived, is the one that received the most the highest form of misinformation. And in cases like this, like I've always said, we cannot speak for ourselves. We can, of course, try to speak for ourselves, but we will be better understood. We will be better heard when people like you in the civil society sector will help us educate Nigerians to let them understand what actually is the Nigerian National Assembly doing. So many things. The first thing that comes to mind is, how much do they earn? Salaries, emoluments, allowances. I don't know when will you help us educate Nigerians to know clearly that what we are doing here is for the benefit and the overall interest of Nigerian people. I don't know when you will have time to help us educate Nigerians to know that what we spend here in terms of our emolument or salaries compared to other arms and agencies of government is like a peanut. Take it from me on record that of over 12 to 13 trillion naira budget we have today in the 2021 budget, Nigeria's National Assembly will have less than 1%. 1% of the total budget coming to the National Assembly. Nobody knows that. Only recently, after the presentation of the budget by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen it. The headlines all over, social media, conventional media, is a kind of comparison that, the Ministry of Education is being given or is accorded 4.6 billion naira in the 2021 budget. Ministry of Health, 3 point something billion naira. Cutting only those components of the budget of such ministries as it affects the ministries alone. And they will now tell Nigerians, National Assembly, 128 billion naira. Those of you in civil society, including those of you in the media, we will expect you to help this institution educate Nigerians to know that when they come across a budget of the Ministry of Education put at 4 or 5 billion naira, that does not cover TET fund. It doesn't cover UBEC. It doesn't cover federal colleges of education. I want to put it to you that today, what is contained in the 2021 budget for the Ministry of Education holistically is over and above 1 trillion naira. 1 trillion naira. So some of those components you see are only reflecting the ministerial head cost or capital of a particular agency. TET funds, UBEC, and all those agencies under Federal Ministry of Education have their respective provisions in the budget. If you go to Ministry of Health, for instance, You may have a budget subhead for the Ministry of Education alone, but every other agency under the Federal Ministry of Health has its own subhead, capital and recurrent. This must be reflected. In the 2021 budget alone, I put it to you that Defense, Ministry of Defense alone, Ministry of Defense, when you say Ministry of Defense, that may not necessarily cover every other thing in defense. It takes the highest defense, takes the highest component of the 2021 budget. So as long as you want to partner with us, and as long as you want to make sure that this system works, you must also be seen to be doing your work. We look forward to more partnership with you, and more, the most specific and important areas that you must have to partner with us is that of educated Nigerians. Oh yes, 128 billion naira for National Assembly. Tell Nigerians clearly that 128 billion naira you have seen in the 2021 budget is not to be divided for 360 members of the House of Reps and 109 members of the Senate. In what you call National Assembly today, you have so many other agencies. You have members of staff who serve or provide our bureaucratic functions. We have the management of the House. We have the management of the Senate. We have what we call National Assembly Service Commission. We have NILS, which is an institution, which is an institute that also educate and also provide training and retraining for our members of staff. Other agencies like the Public Complaints Commission, these are all agencies under the National Assembly. And they drive their budget, capital and recurrent, from this total sum of 128 billion naira. So these are some of those things that we will expect so much from you as members of the civil society organization. While, of course, you continue to play your role as watchdogs, providing the watchdog service over the institution of the legislature. Because we are human as well. We are not supernatural. We will be expected one way or the other to make mistakes. We will expect that checks from you. That just like we have the constitutional power to look after the activities of the executive arm of government by way of oversight, we look forward to organizations of civil society to also help supervise what we do, check what we are doing, and also suggest and come up with robust ideas that will make the parliament work as good as other parliaments are operating all over the globe. This has been the vein of our existence. It has been the vein of our operation. And so many things happen this way. And unless Nigerians come to understand what we do as a legislature, then a lot of problems will continue to come over and over and over again. Let me also use this opportunity to also try to address the Nigerian people, especially in the given circumstances, the problem we are facing. This issue of this issue that is currently going on, which of course is worrisome, is disturbing. No well-meaning Nigerian, a leader or a led, will sleep a happy man today with what is happening on our streets. What is happening in our street is actually worrisome, is disturbing. So many of our leaders have spoken. I want to use this opportunity to also join our respected leaders to appeal to the Nigerian youth that are out there on the street. That time has come when they need to apply the brake. The National Assembly here is an institution right from the beginning, even before they started the crisis, even before they started protesting. The National Assembly took it upon ourselves. We had a motion that was taken by the collective membership of the House of Representatives, led by the leadership. Some of these agitations they have put forward, we got them, articulated them by way of motion, and we have adopted them, charged Mr. President and the executive arm of government to comply with the expectations of Nigerian youth. So I only believe every good turn deserves another. Time has come when our Nigerian youth must know that we have no other country than Nigeria. And we must have to apply the brake at the moment and to allow government a chance to even continue to work out some of these expectations of Nigerian youth. Most of the issues that are being raised, for instance, are issues that are directly embedded in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Section 215, for instance, sub 5, is a constitutional provision. And it's one of the major problems that we have in the Nigerian police reform. That you cannot do overnight. Definitely you need to give the legislature and the government to go through the due process and look at some of our legal frameworks, some of our legislations that are quite defective, some of our legislations that are obnoxious. This is democracy, and democracy is a living thing, it's surviving. As we grow, we also continue to supervise and look at some of those areas where we have gray areas, where we have some lack of concern for human rights, where some of our agencies, security agencies, are either protected by the Constitution. I believe even the drafters of the Constitution never meant what is happening now. Even in those days, when the so-called SARS that is now scrapped was formed, I want to believe that those who wanted to establish SARS did not mean what SARS went ahead doing. So I want to use this opportunity to, on behalf of the leadership of the National Assembly, to urge our youth right there, out there on the street, to know that time has come that they have to give the government a chance. Look at some of these things. Those of them that are in the long run, we look at them on long run basis. Those of them that we can take during short run, we look them at short run scale. And I believe government will be responsive. No one of us is here on his own. Each and every one of us is here on behalf of his people. And I believe what is going out there, no one of us will appreciate what is happening. So I think it is the right time now for us to appeal and talk to ourselves that let us give peace a chance, and I believe government will respond very positively, especially those areas that are very critical. Where we need to work on the Constitution, we will work on the Constitution. Where we need to take immediate action, we must take immediate action. And we as an institution here, as a legislature, we will continue the engagements. We will continue the consultations with the executive arm of government. And where we need to give specific directives to security agencies to do exactly what they're expected to do as security agencies, our own authority here in the National Assembly, through the President of the Senate and through the Speaker of the House of Representatives, I believe will always do that in the interest, overall interest of our people. Executive Director Cislac, I think these are some of the areas that you really need to look forward in the discharge of your social and civic responsibility as members of the civil society organizations. All other things you have mentioned, we have noted, and I believe we'll continue to partner in that direction. We'll continue to partner in that direction to make Nigeria a much more greater country for our people to survive in comfort and not in hardship. I thank you so much for this visit.